Hi, everyone. My name is Elio Narciso. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Scalestack and also host of the Revenue Engine Masters podcast, where we dive in go-to-market and ops and marketing and sales and all the ways in which we can transform business growth today. I am joined by Harris Odobasic, who is my first European guest. Even though I'm Italian, you are the first European-based guest, but also leading voice in revenue operations. He's co-founder of Revenue Wizards and also an author, which is very interesting to me. He wrote the RevOps Pendulum, which is a data-driven framework to align enablement and processes and systems and data. And obviously, we'll ask Harris about that as well. He helps high growth companies implement scalable go-to-market workflows and leveraging also the power of AI to transform RevOps from a back office function into like a real strategic growth engine. I'm very proud to have you on the podcast, Harris. Welcome.
No, Elio, first, thank you for the invite. An honor to be the first European guest on the podcast and the mother continent. No, just kidding. No, I think the summary was great. I'm looking forward to our session. And yeah, thanks for the invite again.
Very good. Well, let's start maybe from the book. I'm very curious about how the idea of the book came about. Why did you feel the urge to write a book, which is like a big endeavor, no? So that's maybe my first question since we're here.
Yeah, very good point. And the book also relates why we started Revenue Wizards as a RevOps and go-to-market agency. We know RevOps is more popular in the US. It's just way more, like 12,000 people working in RevOps there. In Europe, it's like 3,000, considering same size of population. And there are not many agencies. So that's why we started the agency. And then I was also started writing more on LinkedIn about the topic. And then I noticed, hey, there's just not enough educational content. And other piece, then I like reading. And I always wanted to write the book. Okay, let's combine my personal interest of writing and
Yeah.
reading, and then like my professional interest in revenue operation in one topic to have like something solid. We're like it's one way of reading blogs and LinkedIn, but when you have a structured book, it's like it's different. It has a different impact. And that was kind of my motivation and reasoning because I love books. And yeah, and it was the start of the very long journey.
Very good. And I assume that if you write one book, you're not going to want to stop there, right? So are you thinking about your next book?
Yeah, I'm thinking about my next book and it's slowly getting in progress. It's going to involve more interviews of people. I'm only going to say it's going to be about AI, but yeah, that's
Okay, very
that's
good.
it for
Yeah,
now.
I bet that like if you write one book, you're not gonna stop there.
No,
So
exactly.
that confirms my
It's like
hypothesis.
entrepreneurs who start a company and then they become serial entrepreneurs.
Right,
Probably.
right. So the book uses Newton's pendulum as a metaphor for reps. Can you tell us more about that? Can you walk
Yeah,
us through why did you use that metaphor and how it
exactly.
applies to RevOps?
So I walked with my editor and she said, we need something to visualize that and get the metaphor that's very easy to understand for people who are not familiar with it. And it was so difficult to get to this metaphor. And then we were working with a designer and he saw this Newton pendulum in a store and he was like, wait a second, this relates to RevOps. So it wasn't my idea. So it was our designer's idea, all credits to him. Because
Okay.
then it's like it's technological, right? It's scientific. RevOps in a way, it's also technology and science physics. And then you have like different weights or balls, if you want to call them, in the pendulum. And if you push one, they all are in movement and exchanging ideas, energy, and like movement is happening. And it only works if they are aligned on one level. So, and similarly in businesses, there are different departments, sales, marketing, customer success, right? And they are not always aligned. There's a missed opportunity, like data silos are the biggest driver of revenue loss as well for many organizations. And also then department like these functions, data, insights, aligned to processes. There's a lot of data work happening, but doesn't reach the right people. So hence this metaphor is really, okay, we really need to align everything, which is the core principle also of revenue. It's like creating alignment to drive revenue growth, efficiencies, etc. And that's the link from the Newton's pendulum to RevOps.
And so basically aligning sales, marketing, customer success, and all of the different functions within go-to-market. And so you mentioned like the pendulum only works if they are like on the same line, and then obviously there is a force that is applied. What are the representations of the alignment and the force in the actual RevOps? Is it data? Is it like leadership? How do you then like move from the metaphor to how do you actually align all of these different functions?
Exactly. Like that's a big one to untackle, but let's start with revenue operation. It's a strategic and operational function, and within that, you can describe it in 4 pillars. You have data and insights, like you mentioned. You have analytics, data and insight analytics, I mean, one thing, and then you have systems, different types of tooling. Then you have processes, that connecting thing, and then you have enablement, or if you wanna, you can call it people as well. And then the key is, right, so these are your tools to create the alignment, right? So an initiative might be like aligning more on certain KPIs, like revenue contribution along the departments. You can use tooling, smart tooling, like to really create a revenue funnel from front to end. You can use data that just doesn't look only in silos, let's say marketing MQLs, but doesn't look at the whole transition from lead all the way down to customer success, retention, and more like that.
Okay. And what is the role of data in all of this? Because I mean, one of the problems that we see is that like sales is, has its own data, marketing has its own data, customer success has its own data, and often like, different platforms, like, the CRM or Marketo and that's a problem because those data sets are not necessarily talking to one another. Is this a problem that you see, or there are others in the scale of value that you see that prevent success?
Yeah, definitely a problem. Like I worked once with a client, close to 1 billion of revenue, and they had like a whole own data team for marketing, an own data team for sales, and an own data team for CS. First, multiple work was just duplicated because they could definitely share some infrastructure. But then the data was really in silos, and then it moved up the marketing silo, the CS silo, etc. And that creates a lot of inefficiencies and really leads to that the people are not talking to each other. Like sometimes, like CS might be working closer to product and they get really good insights, maybe white space, maybe who's going to churn less. And for sales, it's kind of super relevant market information, or like also for marketing, which clients are very engaged, right? So, okay, maybe we can do some more case studies, how we can maybe use marketing events to leverage maybe even dormant accounts, etc. So this connection is super helpful, but the reality is that due to, I think it has also to do a lot with historical, how companies were set up, especially multinational that exist since decades, and there's a lot of legacy in there, and which has the effect or consequence that they sit on data, but this data might not be in the right format first to talk to each
Yeah.
other. So there might be some transformation that needs to happen, and they might also lack the people that has this cross-functional view, which in many cases is the RevOps, because RevOps by definition has this cross-functional view. So it can be a great glue, even when you have this existing silo structure. You can put RevOps on top of that to kind of coordinating these functions more. So you don't need to start from scratch. Let's merge everything. No, you can also like at the top layer and trying to look from above and trying to merge and facilitate everything.
Very interesting. And I was thinking as you were talking, like, what is like a metric or metrics that you have found important that sort of force sales, marketing, and CS to actually collaborate?
Yeah, customer lifetime value. I think that number is really okay. Like, how much value can we generate with one customer? And everyone can impact that customer to some extent, right? So we can
Hmm.
marketing, we can get more customers in, we can get better quality customers in because we can find out if we get the full funnel analysis. We can look, right? Okay, which ones are we closing more? Which customers are we keeping longer as well? And then marketing can target more this type of customer as well, right? Obviously, then for sales, so like closing everything, the more close and more better clients, it will impact that number, and especially then CS as well. Because often we have like this customer success gets a little bit neglected and companies focusing a lot on new business. But
Mm,
if you have this as your North Star metrics, that the importance of customer success is getting more and more important, especially for larger enterprises, right? With startup scale up, you still have sometimes that your new business, it's 50 or more of your percent of your revenue. But at some point, if you reach above
of
100
course.
million, your customer base is the largest chunk of your revenue. So you really need to make the switch from new business to customer success and have a strong focus on that. And hence, customer lifetime value becomes really your North Star metrics, I would say.
Very good. I like that. And and so, what are the differences? I mean, you mentioned like, larger companies and smaller companies. First off, like maybe clarifying for our audience, you typically work more with larger companies or you work also with startups and like emerging companies?
Exactly. Like at least RevOps, I would say, makes at least sense if you have 5 million revenue. And the more revenue you have, the more impact RevOps is going to have, right? So, for example, in the 5 million ARR company, if you make a 10% improvement, right, you get like 500K more revenue, right? If we do on a 50 million company, like ARR 10%, the same improvement, whoa, it's already the ARR of the first company, the 5 million. So, hence, the larger you get, the more efficient you can get with revenue operation. But smaller companies, they still need to not struggle, they figure out product market fit, growth stages, etc., where in larger is more efficiency gain. So we have a 50-50 mix in that regard.
Okay. And so what are the differences that you see in those two groups? Larger companies versus like, more emerging companies, in terms of how that organization between marketing and sales and customer success happens. Is it like, more like, smoother in larger companies or it's smoother in smaller companies? And what are maybe the differences in the way you are approaching the RevOps function in like maybe a smaller, fast-growing company and like a larger company?
Yeah, it's a good question. Um, we can start maybe with the larger companies. With the larger companies, by definition, they're since longer around. They have probably more legacy way of doing things. And one element there, it's just going to be way more stakeholder management because decisions are impacting multiple departments. And also in RevOps, you want to have this alignment across multiple departments, and most of your initiative are going to be across departments, which really means you need to talk to so many different stakeholders, and
Mhm.
decision time will be a little slower, but often the impact will be larger when you measure it in terms of ARR or like revenue impact. So, and I think there's a lot to gain because if you've done something in a certain way for a long time, and many of enterprises, they are in a luxury position that they're having a more relatively loyal client base and
Mhm.
customers that use it for very long. If you have 200 million or more revenue, you usually don't have a massive churn problem, except there's a major disruption in your industry. So then you really can focusing on these efficiencies and really improve, maybe also reducing costs, initiatives to reduce costs, while also increasing revenue by 5 to 10% point, right? That's more realistic. While
Mhm.
with scale ups and growing companies, well, they're VC backed, PE backed usually. Then they have 60, 80, 100, whatever percent growth expectations. And they're more agile, let's call it like that. So they're usually moving faster. And usually, yeah, they're just everything goes a little bit faster, and also their appetite to try out more things
Mm,
and new things. It's a little bit more. And but yeah, in terms of project, there's sometimes still a little bit more strategy work also to be done. Positioning is that regard. What is the ICP? How does the customer journey look like? And then once that gets more clearer, you can add more automation as well, like enrichments and how to make the team more efficient and health scoring, etc. Like these topics becoming relevant, and often enterprises, these kind of topics already exist.
very good. Let's switch to like maybe something more strategic. I've been talking to a lot of
Yeah.
CROs, larger companies, smaller companies. We've done roundtables, and I think that there is still a lot of misunderstanding about the role of RevOps. That still a lot of work needs to happen to, to make like leadership understand how to best use this very important function. And one of the problems, maybe even in the RevOps professional themselves, I always like try to look at like, let's look inside first and then like, solve that. And I think in one of your research, you showed that like RevOps professionals spend like not too much of their time on soft skills, on developing soft skills. And I was very interested in that. Can you tell me more about that and how like, you see the role of RevOps moving from just like systems and metrics to something more strategic?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a very important point because revenue operations sometimes have this stigma um, that it's like just a CRM admin
Mhm.
and only the technical piece, maybe even now more like more doing clay stuff as well or any type of go-to-market automation. That's like one piece of it, right? And and it's often, especially in smaller company, where just one person in RevOps, then yeah, then this one person automatically needs usually to do a lot of CRM and technical maintenance because it's part of his, but it's day to day, right? So it doesn't have time for strategy. But you need almost to earn it and make it because especially the more you want to move up, and like I mentioned in enterprises, a lot is going to be stakeholder management, right? You need to align with your CMO, you need to align with your CRO, etc. You need to speak the language of them. You need to understand also office politics. We cannot be blind about office politics. They exist everywhere. Everyone wants to be seen a winner in that regard. So how can you make all your stakeholders a winner? So you need to be very strategic in your positioning. And if you don't have the right communication skills, soft skills, persuasion skills in that regard, like you know it the best, right? You are leading your own company. You need to be strategic also how you approach and engage your team to create the right culture. And in RevOps, you need to do it in your own micro universe as well, because compared to a CEO, chief revenue officer, whatever, we don't have direct management over them. Like we are not managers of these people, right? So it's really our stakeholders. So your communication and persuasion skill are really becoming important. And this importance increases with the size and complexity of the company. And that's really what RevOps as a professional kind of need to understand, that they need their skills if they want to progress in their career.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree, and I see this all the time with our customers that like that the ones that are the most aligned with leadership get not only like more attention but more resources and are able to operate also more efficiently because if you get like stuck into the ticket solver
Yeah.
sort of like scope, then you are done for. Because maybe like, that's the reactive way of like managing stuff. But then if it becomes like the only thing that you and your team do, then, it's going to lead to failure for sure.
And you're becoming invisible in the company. Like nobody knows you. You know you were known for the tickets, but beyond that, it's like you're not part of the strategic decisions, and like that's not a good position to be in.
How do you advise customers in terms of like who they should hire and what type of skill set the RevOps leadership team should have?
Yeah, good question. So first, they need to understand really that they have a good understanding of revenue operations. So if they understand RevOps as a CRM admin, then better do not hire RevOps in that regard. Hire a CRM admin if you need one, but don't hire RevOps if you don't want to empower that person. So I think that's like a requirement that the company needs to realize, oh yeah, this person will have strategic impact in the company and we need to empower that person. Now let's assume this is given. Then I would say in most cases, your first RevOps hire should be like a generalist that has some good business understanding and some technical skills, like that they can get through your CRM of choice that you are using, that understands the technical landscapes. And especially now, I think if you want to hire RevOps, they need to be aware of AI. I don't expect them to be an expert, but they should be aware, they should be curious, that they want to educate and learn themselves, educate them more about AI to apply this knowledge in the company. Because many companies, there's a lot of talk of AI, but if you look inside the companies, it's not everywhere, right? So maybe the fancy startups with the shiny logos, there it's maybe more widespread, but the average company, it's getting there, but it's still struggling out who's going to do it and how they're going to do it. And the great thing with RevOps, there could be a great orchestrator of implementing AI in the company, because by definition in RevOps, you own the technology stack. You work with the different stakeholders. You heard from the marketing use case, sales use cases, CS use cases. And then you can use the technology and data knowledge. Okay, how are we going to plug in AI to support the transition between marketing and sales? Can we use AI for that somehow? And then you ask yourself this question. So basically, that's why you need this generalist who can understand the business requirement, understands the technical requirement, and eventually, if you then need more experts afterwards, yeah, then get some fractional support or hire afterward an expert. But don't start with a complete expert, because that person will maybe lack the big picture.
Very good. We'll go back to the AI in a second. I
Yeah,
have a lot of
yeah.
stuff there, but we talked about the leadership. Let's talk about like what do you see maybe amongst your customers, obviously without naming names, but like the teams that have more success, that are doing better versus the teams that are going slower and maybe not having as much success. What do you think differentiates those two groups?
Yeah, I think, yeah, this buy-in that RevOps is this strategic function, and to empower really RevOps to have access to all the stakeholders they need, which is not always given that they can just talk to the CEO or CFO, etc. when they need. So they should have this access to key people, and they should have a say in the strategy of the company in terms of preparing stuff, initiating sometimes, or working very closely with the main stakeholder, be it the CRO or CFO, that they're getting, maybe not directly, but that the work gets in front of the board. So basically the sign that it's really taken serious and acknowledged by the company. Where sometimes in other organizations, I sometimes see, okay, RevOps has this. If your RevOps team 4 out of 5 are CRM admins, then you might be on the wrong track. Oh, that's a hint. If there are too many technical people in it and nobody, and the head of RevOps has also a technical background, which kind of got pushed into this head of RevOps role, but then he still kind of prefers just the tech more than the strategic work, then you don't have the right person, or your team is just technical and you miss the business connection. I think that's the biggest issue. I would rather, if you have the choice, rather have a RevOps that's more business driven than one that's more technology driven, because you can easily compensate for the technology part, because there's so many experts out there who are good in technology. There's tools for it. You can implement software just that does it out of the box. You can get an expert, a fractional, whatever. But a strategic thinker, you probably want to have in-house continuously.
Love it. Very good. I agree wholeheartedly, and I see this also over and over that the being strategic is not like being fluffy. It means that you also understand technology, because the best teams
and data
deeply understand technology and data, yes, but then they can, connect with the business, understand, like ask the right questions, and also like enable them and help them on how to use the technology, how to use the data in a way that helps the business succeed. All right, AI. If I step back and I think about what are like the things that we as Scalestack keep talking over and over and over, and there are three. One is that in the age of AI, data is still key. That like a lot of the outcomes still will derive from data. And so if you don't have like a robust foundational data model for go to market, you're not going to succeed, because your competitor maybe is going to have like, a much better, cleaner, better like prioritize and enrich CRM, and you don't. And so they are going to go faster in prioritizing the best opportunity. The second is we see like teams and go to market using so many tools, and like, there is bloat all over. And then there is like what we call duct tape. We see like duct tape being applied across systems and tools, and like it's difficult to maintain. Maybe like the RevOps teams has to pull some engineering resources from the product team to like develop some ad hoc connector work, and that slows them down. And then the third is what we call the manual work tax, that people still do a lot of manual work, from the reps doing a lot of research because they don't trust the data in the CRM, to the RevOps team maybe having to get people offshore to clean their data, or like manually clean the data, or manually orchestrate, or even using some of the newer tools like Play, like manually having to handle those tables. So these are the three key things that we talk about. You need to have a good foundational data. You need to get away from duct taping your systems, and then like you need to reduce your manual work. If you were to choose one that you think has the most impact, that if you solve that, like, the probability of success and growing are higher, which one would you take? That obviously apply to the RevOps teams.
Yeah. I think it's a good question. And so in RevOps, what we always say is, well, you need to get your foundations right. Often clients come to us and they want to have this very fancy use case, and we tell them, you need to learn you're like crawling and you want to run. First, you need to learn to walk. And that's basically your data foundation, right? So I would fully agree with the first point, the data foundation, especially for AI use case, right? I think we all know like this ChatGPT or whatever, the LLMs, when they get hallucinations, telling you just completely wrong things because the underlying data led to this point. And if you have similar in your CRM data, you have missing data point, different formats, etc., and then you're trying to gain some insights, you will get such a big bias in results that it's just going to be wrong, right? So data is the number one, like getting there, the foundation right, yeah.
And so, thank you for that. And I agree. How can we, talking about AI, what have you seen and how can we use AI to get that foundational data model in better shape?
Yeah, I think that is a tough one. Maybe you even have some inspiration. I know like the easiest what you can do is just use some data enrichment for if you need things for, I'm not sure if I want to call this AI, but if you need data for account research, etc. Sometimes we build automation. Every time a new account is added to the account, some AI workflows, like for example in N8N or similar tools, are running, is fetching like some news about the account, fetching like missing contact data, etc., and uploading the account that the rep doesn't need to do that much research, like you mentioned earlier today. So that's a very good use case. You can use providers like ZoomInfo as well, having some integration there just to enrich your main data set. And I think that's already a great help. And in one other way, let's AI driven, but just like, okay, what are the processes in your company that feed data into your CRM? right? So, for example, like once a contract is being signed, what is just your review process to assure that relevant data points are in the CRM? And there as well, you can do it process driven. Now, I think we're experimenting with one client to doing every time a contract PDF is being added to the CRM, that it basically reads through Vision AI, that it reads the text in it, that it tells us who has an indexation, who has auto renewal, not auto renewal, that it basically like who has a price cap or not, etc. And fills this data in. Because we often ask the legal team to do this, but the legal team does not like updating the CRM, right? I know no team who doesn't like
Yeah.
updating the CRM at that much as the legal team. And they always get away with it because I'm a lawyer. I have so many contracts to review. I will not update it. And nobody's going to push them finally. But AI cannot do actually that part and also help for them to review the contracts, but that's a different topic. So this stuff is very important. Having a good data governance, also data literacy, right? People understand the importance of the data. But I think maybe like do often I find myself we still need to clean up data. If it's in a really bad shape, we really need to clean it up, and often this process is manual. Do you see any automation processes, AI use cases to clean up data?
Scalestack is a great one.
There you go.
But so we talked about the foundational data model, and then you put out like some examples, NA10 or Clay, and we think that those are all valuable alternatives. There is one problem that if you are a smaller company, fast growing, maybe those are the only alternatives. But if you are growing faster, or like a larger company, our understanding of the market is that like you still have to write Python code into NA10, and you still need to handle those tables on Clay, and they often break and all of that stuff. And that's why our view of the market is that that's a great application of AI to build like almost an autonomous system that
Mhm.
gets into your CRM without the need to write Python code, but maybe just representing to the platform, hey, I need to clean my CRM. These are the logic that I want you to apply to deduplicating the accounts. And this is the logic for deduplicating contacts. Implement them and clean my CRM. So that's the vision that we have. And that's how we are doing things for larger companies. This is better for larger companies. So our view is that, a great use of AI is actually in doing all the busy work that people don't want to do. You just mentioned, just now that like nobody wants to update the CRM, right? It's boring. What about like agents doing that work? What about agents cleaning your CRM automatically?
Yeah.
Following a workflow, because what you also said just now is like, oh, you can get some data from ZoomInfo, you can get some data from this other database, or you can get some data from maybe like researching on the public web. And so the agents in our platform follow a workflow logic, compose the workflow and run it. And then they do their magic, which is like incredibly fast research, incredibly fast like understanding of which data source is best for each data point, and they do so autonomously. And that's our perspective on the future of like this portion of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I think that's key. Like this workflow automation and especially the deduplication. So many companies, every company has an issue with duplication. It's a quite big one. Yeah.
And so I think in one of your latest reports, probably the 2025 report, shows that only 25%, like a quarter of the RevOps teams use AI. Is
Yeah.
that
I think that was like the survey was done end of 2024. And I think it was AI for data and analytics, if I'm not
okay?
exactly. So in that regard, still is manual. And I can confirm that I'm working into companies and I see a lot of manual stuff happening there. And which can be like made so much faster. And like ChatGPT is a great helper. When I do some data crunching with ChatGPT, it's just already a helper. Sometimes not easy to scale that, but just like using AI for data assessment, just such a great helper. Even like simple stuff like just to put the screenshot of Excel, I want this and this, and then it generates like this super complex formula for you, and you just copy paste it and it works. Sometimes you need to debug it, but it would take me 20 minutes to writing and figuring out this formula. And I'm like, oh my God, this is cool. Thank you. And like there's some this, but even these little things companies are not doing.
Mm,
Like they could just accelerate the work the existing people are doing by a lot. But then imagine like really connecting AI into and rolling it out in your business, how much more you could do. And I think it's coming more and more. I see more with clients who are forming an AI task force. And I think that's quite common nowadays that you get a multidisciplinary team, get hopefully RevOps in it, and then you look at the business and where can we plug in AI? And like I think that's a right step forward.
very good. We have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
Let's look at the future. First, I was interested that, like, in your research,
Hmm.
you say that private equities are like basically driving the RevOps agenda harder than VCs. And that was very interesting for me. And it sort of makes sense from what I've seen. And so I'm curious, what does that tell us about the future of the category?
Um, I think there might be more I see like many RevOps I talk to, they have PE partnerships, and it's also there like by definition, our PE is just more hands-on in the company.
Mm,
Where VCs are like letting them do, but even also one VC I talked recently to, they said, let's get more engaged now because we want to also be more hands-on with our portfolios because also the VCs are maybe noticing growth is not as desired. So we need to do something. And then now what is working? Okay, RevOps is doing. Let's get more operational because the beauty of RevOps is you get really operational, but you think of the strategy. And and if you think we have revenue in our name, RevOps, so we are optimizing revenue, like obviously every PE and VC wants that because yeah, we're optimizing for revenue. We are not doing this for fun, right? So it's like a real monetary benefit why
mm,
you in RevOps. Obviously some people can get distracted by tools, etc. But the big question is, yeah, we're optimizing for revenue here. Like it's an extremely commercial function. And I would say PEs get it because they are also interested in revenue. They're interested in making their
yes.
multiplier as higher as possible. And they're often acquiring different businesses, and then they need to merge them, making them more efficient. That's right now a project I'm like post-merger integration, migrating the system at the same time. How can we plug in AI here, there, etc. And how can we make it a modern business for the future that eventually the next person buying it gonna benefit even further from it, right? So, so yeah, I think the match of PE and RevOps is very strong.
Very good. And my sense, I agree with what you said, and my sense is that also VCs are getting, to push their startups, so VC-backed companies, to healthier revenue metrics sooner rather than later. And so this will come also for VCs. So I think that in this area, like PEs are leading the way. What other you made like some interesting predictions in your RevOps in 2025. We are like almost halfway through 2025. Which prediction you think will better represents like what's gonna happen, this year and probably like 2026?
Yeah, I think the main prediction is like that RevOps gets more involved in AI. I think that's the prediction that holds really true. And AI is getting more and more serious topic, and for the better worst. And yeah, it's just like driving AI further and really transforming the company and distinguishing between the fluff and what is really working. Right there's also like because there's so much and so much movement happening in the AI space, so you really need to keep standing up to date. In the recent weeks, there was months, weeks, I was reading now more books about AI. But now I
Mhm.
stopped because like, okay, I got now the history, the foundation, understanding, but you cannot write as quickly a book as fast in this field is just moving faster ahead. Till you read something, the whole book is outdated. Like, didn't they start about talking at 0.3, 0.54, and but now there's so many newer models that the whole book becomes so quickly outdated. So, and that as a professionals, we really need to stay ahead, keep learning, keep educating ourselves, and yeah.
Very good. And so, talking about books, and as we wrap up our conversation, any book that you, business or otherwise, that you would recommend to revenue leaders
Yeah,
to become better leaders?
that's a conflict of interest right now.
I'd say, of course, I assume that
uh,
I've read your book.
yeah,
Yes,
no,
yes.
just kidding. No, I think revenue architecture, right? From Jacob van der Kooi, from Winning by Design, a great read. It's a more framework-driven book. So you have many frameworks and can be applicable to your company that you can apply and deploy. So there's this link of strategy and how to do these different frameworks. It's a very thick book and very practical as well. So I can recommend that.
Very good. And last question, maybe like one productivity tool or framework or prompt or anything that you are using heavily right now and you can't live without.
Yeah, right now I'm in so many meetings with this post-merger project. I have to talk to so many stakeholders. And the one tool that's saving me is Granola. Are you aware
Okay.
of Granola?
Yes, yes.
The note taker app.
Yeah.
The notes are just so beautifully, and it's like 90% accurate. And what I like with it, while keeping the notes, I can add my manual notes also into it. You know, sometimes with AI note takers, they create the summary, but then something you thought is important is missing in the summary. And it really annoyed me with many other note takers.
Mm,
And with Granola, I can always add my own notes and then it merges everything and makes sure that my own stuff is always in the summary. And I don't need the video. I will never watch a video recording. So,
no, yeah.
um, yes, maybe in sales and it's understand the semantics, etc., sentiment, but I just need the content in the summary. So Granola, amazing time saver.
Very good. And then maybe last question.
Yeah.
I told you about, like, you were the first European guest. You work also with US companies, typically work with like US companies, but we are like entering the European market. We actually sign our first, actually second customer, and hopefully the third one soon. What is the like, what should Europe do, or European companies do, that US based companies are doing and is helping them to be more effective?
Work more. Literally, in Germany, they're trying to change the legalization to move away from an 8 to 5 work week, so that instead you have a maximum hours of work per week of hours people legally are allowed to work, but they can split it out. If it's one day 10 hours, it's going to be 10 hours. So literally the trend in Europe and so many reports also about OECD, etc., saying you guys need to work more. So I think it's as simple as work more.
Where are you from, Aris, by the way? What's
I'm
your home?
originally born in Bosnia, and then I grew up in Germany as well.
In
So
Germany.
yeah.
I'm Italian, and I worked for about 6 months at the beginning of my career in Germany,
Yeah.
in Bavaria, in Munich. And I was shocked by what you just said, that people didn't work as hard as an Italian that, like, grew up thinking, oh, like Germans are much more successful and, like, larger companies, larger industries. And instead people, like, 4 p.m. they were gone. I was working in a very large company as a consultant. This was at the beginning of my career. And I was shocked by like how little people worked in
Yeah.
Germany.
I have
So,
one funny story I can share as well. When I worked for Tesla in Germany, it was like 2016 and 15, and Tesla forget German work culture. This was American Elon Musk work culture. highly motivated people, insane hours. Nobody cared. We were all driven to do it. So there was the supercharger team. It was, the superchargers where people charge at Teslas. They were like deploying it here in Europe, and they had to collaborate with Deutsche Bahn, the rail company. So basically, the Tesla team was working so much, and the Deutsche Bahn had two teams that worked in circulation. One team worked 2 weeks, the other team 2 weeks, that they don't go above the hours. And the Tesla team had to work with two teams that, because of the employee regulations, they just couldn't keep up. So they assigned two teams to them. Like, that's
Wow.
German absurdity.
All right. So Europeans, we get to work more, it seems.
Exactly.
Harris, this was great. Thank you so much. And everybody, until next time, stay curious, data driven, as we heard, and keep building your revenue engine. The next time. Thank you.
Thanks for the invite. Bye bye.